Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is part 2 from episode 11 with Donnie Boivin. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to episode 11 and then come back and see us. Everybody else, you're in the right spot. Donnie Boivin, part 2. Let's start the show.
Door to door?
I thought about bringing him in here, but...
Dude, pull up a chair.
That's funny. All right. So I just had to edit that out. That was a door-to-door salesman.
That's all right.
As we're talking about sales.
I'm off and I'm like, all right, Justin, got to clean that shit up. You know.
Got the dogs going nuts now.
Yep. They'll calm down.
It's okay.
They'll calm down.
So you're doing sales
Yep.
for franchise. Are you setting up franchises?
No. We're actually selling sales training, but the Sandler organization as a whole is a franchise.
Oh, okay. So is this anything like what I saw with, I can't remember the name of this movie, but they were talking about trying to streamline McDonald's and they're selling franchise ideas.
Yeah, similar.
Trying to set up the chain.
So think about, well, McDonald's is a franchise that
sure.
people do. Sandler's the same way. So individuals who have enough money to buy a store, if you will, in this case it's a training center, can be a quote-unquote business owner.
What was the entry cost for that?
I think for Sandler's around $150,000.
Okay.
You know, so it's a good chunk of change to get into it. And Scott's got a cool story of how he got into it and everything, but in doing that and going to work for him, it was hands down the toughest sale I ever did in my life.
Really?
You know, because now, I don't remember how old I was, but I'm having to sit across from CEOs of companies and convince them I'm the guy that can train their salespeople.
A little intimidating.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you know, because good salespeople tend to be a little bit cocky, you know, have a chip on their shoulder, and now I've got to be the guy to go handle a room full of cocky jackasses, you know,
at the top of their game.
Yeah. So it was unique. It was probably the second greatest learning experience of my life, and it was a lot of fun for 7 years. And you know, eventually the business grew enough that Scott needed me to do some sales training, so I ended up becoming a trainer with him, who still sold, because you can't train without selling. Otherwise, you got nobody to sell, nobody to train to. So did that until September of 2017, and I decided to jump out on my own and launch Success Champions.
And now you're doing a lot of consulting work with other organizations and
a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals. I mean, it was a hodgepodge. I mean, when I launched Success Champions, I wanted to be the next, Tony Robbins. I wanted to be the next motivational speaker. I mean, that was the direction I was heading. And what I didn't understand during that process is locally a lot of damn people knew who I was.
Yeah.
And a great plan. But outside of Fort Worth, not a fucking soul knew who I was. So, and I wasn't really prepared for the amount of work that it was going to take to, become that type of person. So during the first runs of the business, I was doing anything I could to make money. And I was also under a non-compete from Sandler Training.
Ouch. That
I couldn't do sales training. And that's the only thing I knew was sales. So I was a business consultant. I, did some graphic design. I did some social, anything I could think of to try and make some money, knowing that once I got past that 1 year commitment that I could go back to doing what I was good at. So, at about 6 months into running the business, I had the unfortunate thing of going in and walking up to my wife and going, "Babe, we're about to fucking lose everything." We had our farm out in Azle. I built a second house on the property for my in-laws, and I had no clue how to be a business owner.
Yeah.
For 20 years, I'd been a sales guy for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I never understood that being that sales guy for somebody else was somebody always telling me what to do,
Yeah.
I never had to really think for myself, And, here I was, spending every dime we had. We had gotten almost 3 months behind on a mortgage. The cars, they were talking about repoing them. It was gnarly, dude. I was just that upside down in business. And when I looked at my wife and said, "Babe, we're about to lose everything," she looked at me and said, "You better get off your ass and go sell something." So I started right around January 2018. Things started to see a little bit of light. We were getting some deals in. And then in April of 2018, God, where was the speech at? One of the conference centers.
Here in Fort Worth.
Yeah. I gave a speech at an event, and I told my wife, I said, look, when I go to this and I give the speech, I'm going to leave it all on the stage. I'm going Bruce Springsteen style, man, just fucking going all in. If something happens from it, I'll keep running the business. If nothing happens from it, fuck it. I'll shut it down and go get a sales job because I can get a sales job anywhere.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. So I went, and when I walked off stage, dude, I was fucking whooped, man, because I'd given everything. I was running across the stage, just getting carried away, everything. And this guy walked up to me, and his podcast is no longer in existence, so I won't say his name, but he walked up to me and said, dude, I love your story. I love your energy. Would you come tell your story on my podcast? And I said, well, what the fuck's a podcast?
This is 2018, and you don't know what a podcast
No clue.
is?
No clue.
Well, you're in good company. It's like
Yeah,
most of the world.
Most of the world still. And so he explained, he's like, dude, it's like news talk radio. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. He goes, well, come tell your story. I'm like, cool, I'll do that. So I went, jumped on his podcast, and it aired a couple days later. And literally, after it aired, like 2 different companies reached out to me and said, hey, can we talk to you about some consulting work, some business development stuff and everything else? I'm like, well, yeah. And then I went, wait, I can go on podcast and get clients out of there? Hold my beer and watch this shit. So I made a mad dash, and somebody found it once upon a time that month, like it was like 30 days, and I was on like 67 different podcasts. Yeah. I just went bananas.
Yeah.
And I got on one podcast that was just really bad. It was fucking horrid. And the guy's show's still around, so I won't say his name either. And he's local here, too.
You have to tell me after we get done.
Yeah, totally.
When I turn the recording off, I want to know.
And his show was so bad that I finally was like, all right, fuck it, man. If this guy can have any success, I'm launching my show. So in May of 2018 is when I launched the Success Champions podcast. It hit the top 300 on iTunes 3 months in. It top 200 overall in fucking, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after that.
Yeah, not to cut you off, but since we're on that subject, I always make little notes in case I have a guest that I get hung up on and don't know where to go with the conversation. But where is it? Yeah, let's see. Just went on a podcast called Doing the Thing.
Doing the Thing podcast was just at that one.
Yep. And in his description, there it is. Title says you're on the top 200 iTunes podcast.
Yeah.
That's a
so right
big
now.
achievement.
Thank you. Right now they say there's over 2 million podcasts in the marketplace.
Is it already up to 2 million?
Yep, it blew up because of COVID.
Right. Well, I mean, before COVID, it was like 800,000.
Yeah, they're saying.
Jesus.
I haven't seen an official report that says that.
Yeah.
But I've heard a couple of other podcasters throw that number out there.
Damn.
So it's somewhere between 800,000 and 2 million. So that's the best. But the flip side of that is of those podcasts. So I don't want to discourage anybody from thinking about launching a podcast. Right. Is last year 4.5 million books were written.
Yeah.
And so podcasts are still behind the scenes. And if you look at traditional podcasts, most of those shows haven't launched an episode in the last year.
Yeah.
So there's only really about probably 200 to 500,000 active shows.
Yeah. I dug into those analytics too, and it looked like the reason I am launching this one with 10 episodes up front is because I can't remember the percentage. It was 80% or higher of podcasts don't make it to 10 episodes.
Yeah. So the way we always looked at it, especially as we grew, that we wouldn't help people get on podcasts unless they had more than 10 episodes.
Oh, okay.
We didn't legitimatize a podcast until they hit 100.
Damn.
And you were more legendary if you got over 2.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a lot of work.
And have you hit 300 yet?
No, I dropped 236 this morning.
Nice.
So I was an idiot when I first launched the show.
That's okay.
So John Lee Dumas, right?
2 years from now, you're going to look back and say you were an idiot now, probably.
Oh, of course. That
just shows growth.
All right, it's how you learn everything. So John Lee Dumas, I didn't know at the time he was running a daily show. But I'm like, dude, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go all out. So I launched a daily show. I think we did Monday through Friday. And I knew I had to set a massive trap in myself to keep me doing this. So I'd set my Fridays up. I was doing 9 interviews every Friday, every hour. No lunch breaks, no anything, just recording. You can sit across from people. This gets exhausting after
I
a
just did it, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I only did 4. I picked a Sunday. I did 4. Some of them were an hour and a half. I think one of them was only 30 minutes, but man, it wears your ass out.
It does.
And I did the
It's
same
mentally
thing. No
exhausting.
lunch,
Yep.
just all the way through. Ruger, the big dog, he just wouldn't shut up. So, I mean, this is his house, man. We're guests in his house.
Yeah, totally. But part of the reason the show, I think, took off is we put out a massive amount of content. Because even me nowadays, I'll go search for a podcast because people search podcasts just like you do, Audible or Google.
Right.
You go look for a topic you want to listen to, and it's like I just found this book marketing podcast. I'm like, cool. I've got my second book's fixing to come out. Second book I've done solo author. I've got 4 books in the marketplace now, but and I'm like, cool. Book marketing. I'm into it. And all their episodes were 12 to 15 minutes, which is cool. It's quick consumption. But I'm already at the end of their show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, fuck, now there's nothing else to listen to. I've got to go find something else.
Right.
So there's definitely, people consume podcasts like Netflix.
Yeah. And I know I binge it too. My day job, I'm driving a truck, and I'll go from 8 hours to 15 hours behind the wheel. And the whole time I'm just listening to podcasts.
Oh, dude. Have you listened to Work Life by Adam Grant yet?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Dude.
Is that the one?
Yeah. Totally into his podcast. I've listened to every episode.
Where's he out of?
He's out of one of the big universities. So
I don't know why that's so important to me, but I like to know where people are coming from.
Well, one of the things I hate about St. Louis, this is real, and they still do it. When you meet somebody in St. Louis, in town, first question they ask you is, what high school did you go to? And my answer was always, you wouldn't know it. I went in Fort Worth, Texas. They had nothing to do with you at that point. They couldn't put you in some sort of category.
Right.
Because, excuse me, St. Louis is broken up into like 4 quadrants, north, south, east, and west. And depending on which quadrant you're in, it was how much money you had.
Okay, yeah.
And now they couldn't put me in some sort of quadrant, so they didn't know how much money I had, so they didn't know if I was of value to them or not. Right. So it was miserable up there in that regards. But
do you want something to drink?
Yeah, water would be awesome, actually.
Let me get that.
You got to edit this shit anyway.
Oh, yeah. No problem. You got anything else going on today?
No, we were just going to the farm. I had to go pick up all these shirts today, so.
Where'd you get those made at?
Big Frog over in Montgomery Plaza, Jackie Pierce's the owner.
Yeah, they did some work for me. When I still had my landscaping business, we did that home and garden television, and I had a bunch of shirts made up by them.
Yeah, Jackie's cool. Really like her. So, I don't remember what the fuck we were talking about now.
Where were we at? We were talking about St. Louis, different quadrants. They didn't know if
on
you had any
podcast.
money.
Yeah. But with Adam, he's one of those. What's he say? He says he's his mission is to make work suck less.
Okay.
So he's really focused on helping people enjoy work more, and that's really aimed at more the employees and the companies and stuff. But I'm fascinated with how he breaks shit down, and the research the guy puts into the stuff to turn things on his head. And
Tell me the name of that again.
it's called Work Life.
Work Life.
With Adam Grant. Freaking brilliant. And right now, in my opinion, the best edited show in the marketplace.
Okay.
He just puts a lot of, his format's brilliant, even down to his commercials. His commercials in the show are mini podcasts.
So where does he put them? Does he front, back, mid?
They're mid rolls, but instead of, and he tells you, because this is going to be a different type of podcast. And he literally goes into these, like Chase is one of his sponsors, and he finds a
Chase Bank.
Yep. He finds a badass story inside of Chase, and he runs a mini podcast, full detail, the history, the storytelling style. It is fucking legit.
Well, it's good that he tells you that it's coming, because
You hate it when they're right in the middle. All of a sudden it drops.
Well, I'll be checking out a new podcast, and I'll be into the story, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's an advertisement.
Yeah,
like, you
it's
just
like
find yourself in the
yeah.
middle of a mid-roll, and you weren't expecting it.
Yep.
It's very annoying to me. So.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but I think a lot of people don't respect the editing for the audience, right? There's over editing for sure. Over editing to me is like watching an overtrained speaker. Yeah. They're a fucking robot. I love bagging on Toastmasters.
Oh, Jesus. We just had a guest come on that was 2 episodes ago. She talked about Toastmasters to no end. So,
well, here's the truth. Toastmasters is good for about their first 10 meetings or their first 10 tracks that they do, because it will help people learn to get into speak, and it will help them get up and give. For that, absolutely fucking amazing. But these assholes that go compete and stuff, it is horrible because they're robots. I did a keynote in Dallas for a podcast convention, and the guy who went on before me, literally the gal who booked him, she came back to me and she goes, "Will you do me a favor? This guy is such a fucking robot. Will you unleash when you get up there on stage?" Because every step, every maneuver, I mean, they teach this blocking thing where you walk to this portion of the stage and then you make this gesture, and then you walk to this portion of the stage and you make this, and it's just so unnatural for people.
Yeah.
You look like that robot off of Will Rogers or some shit. And this guy was just so over the top. I mean, every phrase, every statement was choreographed. I mean, it was fucking horrible. And so when I got up there, of course, I walked to the front of the stage and like, all right, well, that was fucking crazy. Where are all my badasses at?
Really broke up the ice. Yeah, everybody started applauding.
Right, well, they did. They went fucking nuts for a little while. But the gal afterwards, she goes, "I didn't mean for you to start off that way necessarily, like saying, well, that was fucking crazy."
I want to tell you why I'm cringing over here. The self-published author, Neetu Rishi, that came on for episode 9, she has won a bunch of awards from Toastmasters, and she's very proud of it. So we're getting 2 different aspects of this, So anyway, she was a fabulous guest, and I can't wait to have her on again. But I told her I knew the name Toastmasters, but I didn't know anything about it. So she explained it her way, and you've explained it yours.
Well, it goes back to if you're somebody who's really shy, you don't know how to get on stage, you know how to talk in front of people, go. Yeah. I mean, and it's a great way to learn. I just don't think many of them are going to hit the big times. Yeah. I mean, imagine Gary Vee being choreographed.
No, right? I can't. I wanted to ask you this though. Sure. With you being in the military, do Marines call them NCOs, non-commissioned officers? Yep. Okay. Did you make it to that level?
I made it to a Corporal E4.
Okay, so you're talking in front of groups during your time in the military.
I didn't. So I wasn't the most squared away Marine in the world.
There goes my theory, because I was thinking maybe you had some experience.
I think being a bartender helped. I think being a sales guy helped. Okay, yeah. I think being, I don't know, I'm a center of attention guy.
But you wouldn't credit that for your military experience?
I don't think so. Yeah. I think the biggest thing military taught me was grit, patience, and the being too dumb to give up.
Amen. Yeah.
So and thank God I had that to keep my business alive. But I don't think it attributed a lot to, because I only picked up corporal like 6 months before I got out. Okay. And my staff sergeant was straight off the drill field, and he was just this over the top, squared away guy. He hated me. And traditionally, you get this whole ceremony when you pick up NCO, and it's a big deal. And this motherfucker hated me so bad, he walked up, threw the chevrons at me, and said, "I don't know how the fuck this happened, but you're now a corporal."
Oh my God.
That was my promotion ceremony. So all my buddies were laughing their ass off. And of course, I got freaking beat the shit out of that night by all the sergeants and everything else above me. But that was my entire promotion ceremony.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I didn't get to do a whole lot of the NCO stuff. Yeah. To stand in front of the troops. I mean,
that might be why you didn't re-up, right?
Dude, there's a lot of reasons I didn't I mean, I was in the 4 years with nothing going on, so there was a lot of pointless gear inspections and just shit that was absolutely miserable. And I still got some great friends that I talk to, and I'm not, taking away from my time in the military, but we are a military. And if you're not doing some sort of maneuvers, life sucks.
Yeah. Did you ever that your individual training was for maintenance on vehicles?
Motor T. I worked on.
Is that wheeled or?
Yeah, not tracked. So I worked on Hummers and 5 tons.
Does that put you in nice places like 28 Palms?
No, actually, I didn't hit the stumps.
29 Palms?
Yeah, 29 Palms. Yeah. Or we called it 29 stumps. But no, I didn't make it there. So I made it to Camp Lejeune and there, which is Camp Lejeune is the biggest shithole in the world. I mean, you want to talk about, I'm sure most military towns like this, but the town population is like 4,000. We had 40,000 Marines. Yeah. On that particular base.
That makes for a crowded Applebee's.
Oh, if they had an Applebee's. I don't think they did. I mean, it was dive bar, titty bar, pawn shop, church. Yeah. That was the out of town. And
probably a couple of questionable barbershops.
Yeah, and massage parlors, right? But and you didn't want to date any girls in town because they were a sergeant major's daughter or a captain's daughter, So you stayed away from the women for the most part.
Good way to die.
Yeah, real quick. One of my buddies ended up dating the sergeant major at Cherry Point's daughter for a little while. That was crazy. But then I got put with a forward, so I got to go to Norway and Ireland and. Well, that was a good time. Yeah. Because you're getting out of the country, seeing a different place, and realize that Americans as a whole walk around with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. It's pretty wild when you go to these other countries, and some of them love you. Most of them love you, but you saw how arrogant and cocky we are as Americans over in these other areas. I think, a lot of problems in the U.S. would be solved right now if people would go visit other countries and realize how fucking good we got it.
And I tell people that all the time. Like, people that they have that, you see it on Facebook and social media, people with strong opinions, but no real experience to back up those opinions. Yeah. It's like, you need to get out.
Yes.
You need to, people that have stayed in the same county their entire lives, how much character do you think you have?
Right.
Go somewhere. Go anywhere.
Yep.
Even if it's wrong, just go.
Well, and but people get in their safe bubbles, and they're in that safe bubble, and then so anything that threatens that idea of that safe bubble, that's when all the chaos happens.
Yeah. Well, then just stay in your safe bubble.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% for that. I mean, if more people would shut the hell up, we wouldn't have some of the problems.
Read a book, get a passport.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're an hour in. I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about Success Champion before we go anywhere. So that's kind of where the story was leading up to, right? You start the podcast, you've got your business, everything was kind of slowing down. You're not making enough money to really support the family. And then you went on this podcast and got picked up.
Yeah, so when the podcast took off, I wasn't prepared for it. I it's one of those things you kind of hope happens, but you don't know.
Right.
But I was, having some big name people starting to reach out to be on the show, and I went, fuck, man, if this thing's really going to take off, I got to get my shit together.
Now, what do you mean by that? Like, it's a podcast, so you're already podcasting. You've got that shit together.
Yeah, but now you're coordinating with multiple people to get some of these bigger talent on. You're coordinating with their schedules. Your setup's got to be spot. It was just more. I mean, for me,
lots of moving pieces.
Yeah. I mean, now, it's no big deal for me. But then I'm like, man, these guys can't walk into some sort of wicked ass shit show and sit down and have this conversation. And then I've got to be able to market it, because now I've got, Shailene Johnson coming on, Neil Patel coming on, and I got some of these names. And it was one of those things like, fuck, man, if I'm going to do this, I've got to make them look like fucking rock stars.
Of course, that's the entire mission, right?
Yep. And so it means I had to start hiring teams because we were doing graphics and shit that I didn't know how to do. When the podcast was fully in its prime, I mean, it's still very successful, but we were really pushing for the charts, which the charts are irrelevant. But when we were pushing for the charts, I mean, I had 10 people on the team.
Damn it, dude. See, I've always been baffled by that. Even the show that I probably listen to the most, JRE, he's got a team of people.
He's got 7. Yeah. Well, you got to think about,
he's got Jamie. Who else does he need?
Well, I mean, So it depends. Like for me, getting guests on my show is the easiest thing in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Always has been, because I just understand that people need exposure and I got it. Right. And I don't care who you are at the podcast. Getting guests should be the easiest fucking thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But it's what you do after the show that brings all the value.
Sure.
You know, and I don't bring hardly celebrities on the show or anything anymore because they bring no fucking value.
Yeah.
Because all their people have already heard their story.
Right.
All you're doing is growing their audience.
Yeah.
You know, but when you bring on somebody who's nobody knows, man, they're fucking stoked. They're like, oh my God, I was on a podcast. And they tell the world about your show.
Yeah.
Right. So fun hack. But
that one's free.
you know, but in doing that, I mean, we were producing so much content for these guests. We were, you can have the Sound of Freedom go over.
That's all right. Yeah, we're right in line for the Carswell flight path. So
it's now JRB. You're showing your age a little bit.
Oops. Yeah, that's either an F-35, F-16, F-18. Yeah, I think that's
C-130. No, that's
not a
definitely
C-130.
No. You'd hear the props, but around here, our farm out in Azle is right in the same flight path, man. And when they get out by us, those C-130s, I swear I could hit with a baseball.
Oh yeah, they fly low.
God.
They got a real long displaced final for
Yeah.
sure, like a 15-mile long final.
It's crazy, but we were packaging up this huge social media packages for every guest, so they were getting micro clips and posts for every platform. So we were breaking all this up and laying it all out, and we were doing a daily podcast, so we had a ton of moving parts.
So at least one a day, and then every once in a while you do 9 in a day?
9 recordings.
Right.
But we were releasing a show every day.
Oh, okay, yeah,
right?
for sure.
So, and we came down with this whole process where you don't start marketing a show that you release on the day you release it,
right,
because all your subscribers have already been notified.
Yeah.
You wait 2 days later and you hit one platform, then another platform, then another platform, and you slowly roll it out, and it causes this cool cascade effect. And then you tell your guests what their schedule is to get it out, and they're excited because you just gave them a whole bunch of social content.
Right.
So I had people coordinating our social media, their social media, all the graphics, the audio engineering. And then we were still trying to do business consulting and everything on the side. So there was, just a lot of moving parts. And
so you went from, honey, I don't know what we're going to do, to, holy crap, we're going to have to push vacation back 5 years.
Yeah. and I tell everybody, podcasting saved the business because it taught me business. I mean,
okay.
When you've got to work with that many not employees, they're all 1099s, but that many staff, and you've got to coordinate all of them, plus all these guests, you learn a lot.
By necessity, right?
Yeah, totally. And then, I had to learn, accounting and finance for the business and all that stuff that they don't tell you about being a business owner. Yeah. Being a business owner is just fun. You pick whatever hours you want to work, put your feet up, and money just rolls in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. But in doing that, that's when business for me started really getting fun, because I was starting to figure things out. And an interesting thing really happened is people started asking me specifically, like, how did I scale and grow the business? How was I, finding the success I was? And then, of course, other people were like, I always knew you'd be able to pull it off. You're like, where the fuck were you freaking 8 months ago?
Could have used a little encouragement.
Right. And so people started asking, about how I was growing the business and the teams and everything. So I started teaching a lot of that. And that's actually what got me to Ireland. I did a 9-city speaking tour in Ireland.
9 cities? Mm-hmm. Ireland has 9 cities?
Yeah, dude. They're not big.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun, going around all these little
I want to go
cities.
back so bad.
Oh,
I had a layover there one time, so I got to see the from Shannon, I think.
Yeah,
airfield.
best. If you're gonna fly into Ireland, you got to fly into
The
Shannon.
little bitty stone fence ways or walls.
Oh, so you were stayed up on the
whatever.
West Coast then. So on the
I
East,
just remember it was Shannon.
yeah.
Airport.
If you saw the big stone walls and everything, you stayed on the west side of it.
They were the little ones. They were the little ones that whenever I think of Ireland, I think of those little stone walls keeping the sheep in.
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
Anyway.
That's a cool. The only portion of Ireland we didn't make was the southwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
We hit every other portion of it.
Yeah. You probably flew into that airport.
It was Shannon. It was definitely Shannon.
Yeah.
And we purposely flew into Shannon because we spent a day in Dublin, and if you've been to any big city, you've been to Dublin.
Really?
There's just no point in going. and at least for us, I mean, put us back out in the countryside. So that was fun. But and I started doing a lot more speaking. A lot of people were asking me about podcasting, so I did a lot of speaking on podcasting and everything else. But as the podcast continued to grow, we launched the Facebook group, and the Facebook grew, and we launched the magazine. The magazine took off, and I think we're at like 10,000 subscribers on the magazine now.
Wow.
And things just kind of kept building. Well, in my Facebook group called Success Champions, every Friday night at 4:00, I do Champions Happy Hour, where I literally sit with a glass of rum and just kind of rant about whatever the fuck's going on. Sometimes I bring a guest in. And
to check that out.
Oh, dude, it's fun. It's fun. I've done stupid giveaways and all kinds of crazy shit on it. But during one of those happy hours, there's a lot of people local here in Fort Worth. They're like, hey, we should do a get-together. Just kind of do the Success Champions get-together. I'm like, all right, that could be fun. And which all of a sudden they started calling it DonnieCon. I'm like, no. We are not doing anything called DonnieCon.
Did it stick?
No.
Because you're kind of bringing it back right now.
No. It got changed to the Badass Business Summit real quick. Real quick. And so we rented out the Hearst Convention Center. And
where's that at?
North Fort Worth.
Well, I know where Hearst is.
So it's right there on Pipeline and 820.
Okay, yeah.
Northeast Mall area right there.
Yeah. Next to iFly.
Further down. So if you're going from downtown, iFly, you'll pass it on the left by the putt and all that.
Sure.
It's going to be Northeast Mall's right there. The freeway is going to turn. It's the first exit there.
Okay.
So literally, I think that's 183 in Pipeline.
Okay.
But great, gorgeous convention center. And so we rented the whole place out, and I was flying in speakers from all over the world to...
Awesome. What year was this?
2020. So this was happening April 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Right in the middle of COVID.
Then COVID hit.
Well, I mean, April.
Yeah.
COVID was hot in April.
Well, we didn't shut down the summit or postpone it until late March. We finally called it. The city of Hearst had finally told the convention center, hey, you're shutting everything down.
So when did you hold your summit?
We didn't.
Oh, you didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they closed it up, and we postponed it till September.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So,
I'm like, how did you get
that
done in April?
No,
flying people in?
No. So, but this was the biggest move we'd ever made in the company. I mean, I fucking rented out a convention center.
Yeah.
And I got people flying in, ticket sales. It was pretty damn chaotic. And then, of course, all the money we laid out for that, and then COVID happens, because we had every contingency in the place, down to what happens if we didn't sell tickets. I mean, everything we could think of, but who could hold plans for COVID,
So what percentage of the funding that you put into that are you not going to be able to recoup?
Well, I'll let you know in September.
Jesus. Well, I'm going to try to be there. Is it open to the public?
Yeah, totally. So tickets are on sale at Badass Business Summit right now.
Okay. And that's badassbusiness.com?
Badassbusinesssummit.com.
Okay.
So, but the fascinating thing came out of it because of COVID is, when I was doing Sandler training, I did a ton of networking here in Fort Worth. At one point, I ran like 6 different networking groups.
Do you sleep, man?
No. 100 miles an hour at all times.
Yeah.
Add on top of this, everybody can fully understand how crazy I am. I run a full working farm in addition to all this, and I still run a farm.
I wonder if I ever drive. Where are you located?
So we're out in Azle. So
right. And I'm familiar with Azle.
Okay, so we're in between Azle and Weatherford off of 730.
Okay, I'm very familiar with 730.
So Flat Rock Road off of there, back in I'm a half a mile off of any major road off of Flat Rock. So.
Just trying to think if I've ever seen. Is it how many acres are you on?
So we have on our farm we've got 10, and then we're surrounded by another 50.
Okay.
So that I'm going to buy eventually, but
yeah,
got
goats.
A ton of goats. We even have a goat that's the company mascot called Champion. So,
got a good color scheme.
Well, his mama was our first goat we ever got,
and
she had to have an emergency C-section.
Okay.
She had triplets, and 2 of them didn't make it.
Oh man!
But Champion did.
Nice.
And I'm like, that motherfucker's fighting. His name is Champion, so we still got him. We've got ducks, chickens, geese. We've got sugar gliders, freaking rabbits.
Those are like really hard to take care of, aren't they?
Not. We haven't seemed so. I mean,
Yeah.
I tore apart an old big ass China hutch, pulled all the glass out of it, replaced it with screens, and
How about it, sugar glider?
yeah, that thing's got the Taj Mahal.
Well, because they're very interesting animals.
They are.
And I think we looked into getting one a while back, and we looked at like the care for them, and we're like, not doing it, because we had a hedgehog before.
Oh,
And hedgehogs they're not super hard to take care of, but they take some work.
Yeah,
and they've got two personalities. Both are kind of, to themselves, introverted, but you either get an introverted nice hedgehog or an introverted a-hole. And we kept getting a-holes. We had two hedgehogs. So after that, whenever we were looking at like different types of strange animals, we looked at the the care and, their mannerisms or whatever. And that's why I was asking about the sugar gliders. But goats, my next move is to buy property, and I want some goats.
Better buy it quick because it's going up quickly.
I know.
I will say, the farm is our sanctuary. It's nobody gets down to our property unless we know you're coming.
Yeah.
It's I got a cool 3-story Victorian house out there, so it's nice. I mean,
a modern Victorian, or did you
get
something that was
the guy tried to move an old Victorian house out there that built it.
Tried.
And the reason I say tried because it was a historically protected home, and to do that, you got to rebuild it the same way it was built originally.
Okay.
So if it had no foundation, you couldn't put a foundation down. Every piece had to be marked and labeled and moved and put back in the same way. And he's like, "Fuck that!" So he built a Victorian style home from scratch.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really cool. But before we found it, it was on the market for a couple of years, and it was all done it up in the different colors and stuff. But they couldn't sell it. So right before we bought it, they painted the whole fucking thing white. So
I was imagining, since it's Victorian, it's probably all white.
Yeah, no, we're gonna eventually take it to the painted lady colors and do the colors and everything. So,
red roof, blue front.
Yeah, just
red door.
Crazy shit. Yeah, totally. So, the interesting thing is during all this COVID stuff, when they shut down the conference, and I postponed the conference. I got to keep saying that, but we had been doing business online for almost 3 years at that point, and we knew immediately that small business owners were going to be impacted, and they were going to businesses were going to get shut down because a lot of people had no clue how to do business online.
Yeah.
So I rallied the team and said, "Okay, guys, we got to come up with something that helps these small business owners out. We got a platform, we got a lot of people that follow us. What the fuck can we do?" And like you do as a business owner, 3:00 in the morning, I pop wide awake. And I'm like, "Fuck, dude, you were a networker for a long time. You ran a lot of groups. Why don't you just start launching virtual networking groups and see what happens?" So I called him the number 2 in my company, Kevin, and I said, "Dude," I didn't call him. I sent him a text message and said, "Hey, we're going to launch virtual networking groups. What do you think?" And this was like at this point, like 4:30 in the morning. I sent him this message. And at like 6:30, he hadn't responded. So I'm sending a message. I'm like, "What is this, a shitty idea? Is this not going to work?" And he comes back. He goes, "Dude, it's 6:30. I haven't had fucking coffee yet.
Go play with your sugar
gliders." Right. So he came back and said, "Dude, it's brilliant." So from that moment, 7 days later, we launched the first Success Champions virtual networking group. And
so this is May?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, beginning of May. Yeah, when we launched that. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO of Point Blank Safety Services. Ooh, somebody you should really bring on your podcast. I'll make that happen.
Yeah.
She became the president of that chapter, and we launched the first virtual networking group. And so we bring what we call second-tier networkers together. So the people that have been through the BNIs, the chambers, and everything else.
Been
right,
there. Yeah.
Right? And most people that we're looking for look at organizations, and I love BNI. There's nothing wrong with it because they train all the people that I can go steal and get the badasses out of the groups and put them in our groups.
Yeah.
Right? Because BNI is where people go learn to network. Right? So, but at some time, if you're in business, you're going to outgrow that group because you're going to realize there's a whole bunch of people in there that can't sell.
Yeah.
They're selfish. They're only looking for handouts. So we take those badasses, because my most successful group that I ran here was called DFW Business Resource Group. And it was a B2B commercial only networking group. And we were passing millions of dollars worth of referrals a month.
Nice.
But we had movers and shakers. So to be a part of the group, you had to be in the community. You had to be, part of the major Rotaries. You had to sit on nonprofit boards. And you understood that this networking group was only a portion of your overall business development plan. This wasn't the solo place that you were coming to get your business.
Yeah.
You came to that group to help grow other people's businesses. And man, we did some serious business out of there. So when we launched this, I said, look, man, I don't want the rookies. I don't want the people that are just starting out. I want the legitimate badasses that are well connected in their communities and get that the more time they invest in other people, the more badass doors they'll get open for them. And so we launched that early May. So we're 2 months in, almost 2 months in now. We have 19 chapters across the U.S. We just opened the first one in Canada. We're fixing to open up in the U.K. and Ukraine.
This is all since May?
May.
Jesus, Donnie.
Well, when you tell people that you're going to put a room full of badasses together, we call them GSDs, get shit done people. When you put a bunch of them together, they're like, oh, fuck, I'm in. Let's do this. So we put a price tag on. It's $47 a month. Okay. And
which is, by the way, wicked cheap compared to similar business models that I've heard of in the past.
Oh, and it gets even better because that felt like a wait, there's more moment.
It was. Well, that's all right. I'm okay with it.
So I have been running, an online community through Facebook, teaching business development and sales for a while now.
Yeah.
So what we did is we knew these small business owners, one, didn't know how to do business online. So not only do they get into the networking groups, but now they're getting put into the ongoing sales and business development training. So once a week, every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, I do go live and teach business development and sales and how to grow your business online. Nice. So now all 20 chapters across the world come together, and now you're networking with everybody everywhere.
That's very powerful. And to people like you and me that are listening to this, they're immediately going to understand what you're talking about. For anybody that's not been in some type of business networking group, typically what happens is you just get a lot of members in multiple different fields. You might have a real estate agent. You might have somebody that's into Amway. You might have somebody that's got a landscaping business, a pool guy, an AC guy. And what they do is they hand off referrals to one another. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
We're running
along with training and along with camaraderie between different.
Absolutely. So we're doing. The similarities are, you're still one seat per chapter, one industry.
Okay.
Where it starts part ways is the way we run the meetings. We're not as tightly structured as like a BNI or a chamber. Mm-hmm. We emphasize a hell of a lot more training. Yeah. What the members will do, their little elevator pitch still, but like when a member does like a 10-minute presentation, nobody gives a fuck about the history of your company.
Yeah.
Right. And they come in and they're teaching something. So they're teaching, a skill set that everybody can try. And one of the coolest ones that we've had happen in one of the chapters is the guy ran a drug testing company. So we're in the middle of COVID. And he came in and taught everything about COVID, the insides, outs, where it came from, how people are catching it. I mean, it was fucking fascinating. So that's
because he's got a laboratory.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Yeah.
So he, even back then he was like, dude, at this point, because we were a month or so into it, he's like, everybody's been exposed to COVID. He goes, because your dumbass went to Walmart to grab a bag of chips or something
before we started the lockdown.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, and the numbers that are coming out, COVID comes up on every single one of these because that's all we're thinking about. It's affecting us far and wide. But yeah, the numbers they've altered. It's not the same information as whenever all this started rolling out. We were terrified. We thought everybody was going to die, and that's not exactly what happened.
I just liked his position on it. He's a Navy corpsman. He owns a drug testing lab company. Take that for whatever it's worth. But he's like, look. It's the flu.
Yeah.
It's going to come back.
Flu light.
People are going to die from it,
Sure.
And it's tragic, guys. I don't want to make light of it by any...
Not minimizing it, but it's not what we thought it was going to be.
Correct.
It is terrible, and people are getting sick. It is a real disease, but
Yes, it is. It is.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. And he's like, look, dude, you're going to see a resurgence of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's the flu or form of flu. It's just like the same flus that come around every year.
Yeah. This is not the first SARS virus we've had.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was fascinating. But in launching these networking groups, it made this huge pivot in the business, because this is just not something we were even remotely thinking about before COVID happened.
You used a term a minute ago, and I wanted to, before we go much further, you said one seat per position. Is that right?
Yep.
Now, for like you and me and anybody that's been in our positions, we understand that terminology, but what Donnie's talking about is if you are coming into a chapter, and there's chapters in certain regions, and you've got 20 nationwide, right?
Well, 19 and the one in Canada.
Okay. So the region that would be inside your area, or the chapter that would be inside your area, there's going to be one position. So if you're an AC guy and you want to be in this group and they don't already have that filled, you would go into that group. You now have that chair once you've secured it, and they're not going to pull in another AC guy. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's a great description. The one variance on that is, if you look at, and I'm not picking on BNI.
Sure.
I keep telling everybody I need BNI because they're doing all my training for me. Right?
It's a very politically correct way to put it.
It's the truth. When their people get trained up and they become their big Billy badasses, and they're mentally exhausted and done with BNI, they're a perfect fit for me.
Sure.
But in BNI's, like the Kevin who's in my company, he ran the largest BNI region in Minnesota.
Okay.
Had like 4,000 some odd members.
How do you do that?
His main chapter that he would run had 84 members in it. Mm-hmm. They had like 3 different types of financial advisors.
Right. So you got one guy that does like people up to $50,000, and this one did like old people and whatever else. It was too fucking confusing. So for us, no chapter will grow over 30 members. Right. Very smart. So once you get above that mark, now it's time to open
we'll
another
open
chapter.
up another chapter, right? And it's because the meetings will always stay an hour. They'll always be virtual, because especially here in the DFW marketplace, dude, if you got to get anywhere to a meeting, you're 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because you're 20 minutes to get there, 20 minutes to do the small talk. Meeting goes for an hour, 20 minutes afterwards, BSing around.
That's half your day.
Yep. And now you got to come back here, dude. Anywhere you are, as long as you have a phone, you're logging in. It's funny. We're watching people do, participate in their cars. I've done it on the tractor. I mean,
are you a Kubota guy or John Deere?
No, I'm a Cub Cadet.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't have a full big ass tractor.
Yeah.
I don't need all that.
You buy that extra 15 acres, you're going to need a bigger one.
You're damn right.
Yeah.
And more animals.
More goats, more sugar gliders.
Yeah. Well, no, at that point, I want to go. Ultimately, we want to do a big ass drive through animal rescue. So do like what Glen Rose and Arbuckle's done.
You going to take on tigers?
No.
I hear there's an opening in the market for that.
I've never seen that show.
Oh, dude. It'll rot your brain, but it'll entertain you for hours.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things. No desire to get even into.
No,
I know that I've heard.
Don't waste your time. You're too busy for that, Donnie.
Well, what's funny is I've got some friends that say like the book Checklist Manifesto is the greatest book of all time.
Never
right?
heard of it.
Let me summarize it for you.
Okay.
Make a checklist. There's an entire book. And that's kind of the way I feel about the Tiger King type thing is, okay, cool. Carol killed her husband. Shit went south. It's a bunch of hillbillies. Some straight dude married 2 other guys. That's the whole show, and I've never seen it.
Yeah, you saw the show based off of memes.
Yeah, totally. And so there's no point in wasting your time going through it. And that's just, how I am with a lot of things. But, I think 2 things are going to continue happening with Success Champions. One, I think we're going to completely change the game of how people sell. I think we're going to get people to understand that sales is just a fucking conversation, right?
Absolutely. And it has to be that in this day and age, with everybody already set up to say no to a salesman. It's got to be just a conversation.
Yep. So you got to go big and loud in that. And I think we will completely change the landscape of how people do networking.
Sounds like you're off to a hell of a start. Now, DonnieBoivin.com. Is that the best place to get all of your information?
Yeah, so two things. Well, let me give your guests and your listeners something really cool. So one of the biggest things that we struggled when we launched the podcast, the business and everything, was coming up with social content. Because in this day and age, you've got to be putting out social content.
Every day.
It's
all
an
day.
absolute We figured out a pretty cool way to create a massive amount of content in a very, very short amount of time.
Okay.
So one day I taught, how one of the groups that I have that we do all the online classes and things for, I taught them all how to take in 20 minutes to create about a month to 2 months worth of content. I mean, that's videos, that's audio, that's memes, social graphics, blogs, the whole nine yards.
Did you say 20 minutes?
20 minutes. I'm not kidding.
Crystal ball?
What do you mean crystal ball?
Some kind of magic?
No, it's fucking no. It's all done by free programs. Okay.
Oh, okay. You got programs.
Yeah. So in teaching that, I literally take them through how do you record a video and then repurpose the dog shit out of it, right? And just make a Gary Vee style ton of content, right? What we've done, because I knew I was coming here to do this, so I packaged all that up. So if your listeners will send a text, says, I am a success champion, to 817-318-6030, I will send them that entire training. So it's 45-minute training, and it's completely free. I'll send them that entire training where it walks them through step by step how to create an endless amount of content from stuff they're already doing.
I'm sitting here like I just watched a lion take down a gazelle. I was not expecting that. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
That's very cool. You're
absolutely.
Definitely the first guest that's come on and been that prepared and shared something.
I've been
with
in the
listeners.
podcast game for a little while.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm going to try really hard not to just blow your phone up with all sorts of questions, because you're so much deeper into this than I. Eventually, one day, I want to get to your level. That's a lot of success that you've seen with everything that you're doing. I did have one question that I wanted to ask you about before we get out of here, but whenever you were talking about releasing your episodes, you were talking about putting out the episode, waiting a couple days, then attacking one social media platform, and then progressing kind of in a series. Did I understand that right? You are releasing the episode, getting it out on all the directories, and then focusing on Instagram one day, Facebook the next day, Twitter the next day.
Yeah, totally. And being native to the platform is huge. And what I mean by native to the platform is don't do something on Instagram and then post it to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and everything else.
Which I have been doing.
Right? Stop that.
Okay.
Because think about it this way. Facebook doesn't want you to leave Facebook. LinkedIn doesn't want you to leave LinkedIn. Twitter doesn't want you to leave Twitter.
Yeah.
So by posting native to the platform, it helps the algorithm by going, okay, cool, maybe he shared it to his Facebook page or whatever thing else, but it's still on Facebook. I'm going to show more people because it keeps them here.
Okay.
Right? So think about, you release audiograms are dead, if you know what an audiogram is. That's where you basically take a still picture and put the audio behind it. Those don't work anymore. One thing you're going to learn very quickly about podcasts is the marketing strategy moves fucking fast.
Yeah.
Very, very
fast. It changes.
Yes. So like right now, LinkedIn is killing it on videos.
Yeah.
So if you're not putting out video content on LinkedIn, you are missing big time.
Okay.
So the Joe Rogan is brilliant. Even though Joe Rogan's not on LinkedIn, follow what he does on YouTube and do that on LinkedIn. Because what he'll do is he'll do a little clip and it says, "Professor tells Joe Rogan he's a freaking idiot," right? And that headline alone just captures your ass. You're like, who's got the balls that tells Joe Rogan he's an idiot? That dude will freaking punch his lights out, Yeah. And so you go into it into some really kind of cool in depth, thing, and it captures you. So if you do that same type of thing, but on LinkedIn, you always got to turn it to business. Okay. So no matter what that snippet or clip is, you got to have a business spin on it, or people go, "Oh, this isn't Facebook. That shit, we don't want that here."
Right.
On Facebook, now you got to go to a more personal level. Right, so you put out that same clip, And it's more along the lines of Joe Rogan and the Professor talk about,
punching each other in the face.
yeah, whatever, right? So you adjust it so it's native for that platform.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do is they create one piece of content and then they plop it on every one of the platforms. Anybody that follows you on these platforms, once they start seeing the same content over and over, they stop paying attention, right? Because they don't want to see the same thing every time they show up.
Right.
So it's, and every one of your podcast episodes should become a blog post. It actually could become several blog posts.
Yeah.
It should become a vlog post.
Are you blogging just to your website or just
to my? We blog to the website, and then we do on LinkedIn. You do the articles on LinkedIn. So
I'm still trying to muddle my way through LinkedIn. I started really investigating all the social medias that I didn't give a shit about. I'm learning all of those. So
here's where I got overwhelmed, and then I give this to everybody: quit trying to master them all.
Yeah,
master one, maybe two.
Okay,
right, and really so. Think about very specifically where your audience is going to hang out. Where are your listeners really going to be? And then go all in on that platform and then build a secondary one. The one caveat to that is every podcast should have a Facebook group associated with it because we've built our empire around a Facebook group.
Yeah.
So 1,000 true freaking fans that are just into what we do is how we've built everything we've done.
Yeah.
So
not a page, a group.
A group. You still need to have a page as well because if you ever want to do ad spend, you got to have a page.
Yeah.
But a group creates its own community. And just remember, people want to hang out with people that are like them.
Right.
So when you have a group collectively coming together, talking about the same things, and this is going to be focused on Fort Worth, start a group on Fort Worth and then go join every other group that's in Fort Worth. And start adding value and talking, and then get people. Don't go into the group and say, "Hey, come join my group," but start adding value. Start adding snippets from the show and clips and everything else.
Yeah.
And then in your profile, take your background picture of your profile and go headlines. Join Fort Worth whatever group in there, so people go when they start checking out. Why is this guy posting all this cool content? Now they see your profile and they're like, "Oh, he's got a group. Let's go join that."
Yeah.
That's how you grow the group out.
Very cool.
So
very cool. Well, tell them that text message number.
Yep.
And,
so send "I am a success champion" to 817-318-6030, and we'll send that all over. Of course, you're going to have to ask for your email because we got to know where the hell to send it. But it's a 45-minute Zoom training where I've got legitimate clients of mine, going through, and you're going to hear all their questions as I share screen and walk step by step how to create all this content. So.
That's awesome, Donnie. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then again, the website is DonnieBoivin.com. That's DonnieBoivin.com.
That's it. And then if people are interested, you can go find all the stuff there. But I have several books in the marketplace now. Probably the one that would fit your audience the best is How to Be a Success Champion. Just go to Amazon, type in How to Be a Success Champion. It'll pop up. It's got a really cool cover on it. It hit Amazon #1 bestseller of all of Amazon, and it's continued to go on. So
Jesus, man,
dude, I'm telling you, we have learned a fucking lot on this ride.
Well, I'm very, very overwhelmed that you're here, and I appreciate it, and I hope to learn a little bit from you,
dude. And anything you need, seriously, reach out. I don't mind
Awesome.
helping out whatsoever.
Donnie, that's an hour and a half, man. Thank you for your time. I know that's probably longer than you were anticipating,
good.
but I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And anytime you need to come out, promote, you want to hang out, maybe next time we'll do drinks.
I love that. Thanks, brother.
All right, Donnie. Thanks, man. Bye, everybody.